Welcome to the Genius Link, the show that shares genius strategies from absolute geniuses. Curious on how to successfully create $1 million business by using existing platforms and online tools? Then this is the show you absolutely have to listen to. This podcast is for those individuals or companies that are locked into their old behaviors and strategies and looking for different ways to grow their business. My name is Sharon Van Sprang, your host of the Genius Link Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the first ever episode of the Genius Link. I am super excited about this, and more importantly, I am super excited to hear what you think. So follow the Genius Link on Instagram and show me some love. In this episode, I had the opportunity to speak to Bastian. Ever heard of Airbnb arbitrage? Well, if you want to learn how to be successful in an unconventional way, then you should stay tuned. This episode was recorded on the Nomad Cruise. I met hundreds of amazing nomads, all with one goal: living the life on their terms. We're on a boat and I'm quite sick. It's like really rocky today. I'm doing the Nomad Cruise with a lot of digital nomads. Having workshops. It's kind of like a vacation, and I met Bastian. So
Thanks for
Bastian,
the introduction.
tell me a bit more about you.
Yeah, my name is Bastian. Most people in your podcast supposedly don't know me because I'm more active in the German field, and I'm 33 years old, and have been traveling the world for like 3.5 years by now, and tried out all kinds of different online business models that I always document on my blog Office Flucht.
Yeah.
It's a German-speaking blog, but I just try to show people how easy it actually is to break out from conventional career thinking and just go for certain things, trying out what is actually all out there to do. And I mean, in times where all the knowledge of mankind is just one click away, like basically at your fingertips, I think there's just no excuse to do something day in and day out that you dislike, right? And like you can learn so much over YouTube, Udemy, all these online course platforms, podcasts also. So I'm just trying to make people aware of the chances that we actually have nowadays.
So how did you start it? Because I had this conversation with you yesterday, and you've done a few online businesses. And I'm really amazed about your creativity, and that's what I really like about the Nomad Cruise. Like you try to, you earn money by ways that I would not even think about. So tell me more about how you started.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm a college dropout that dropped out twice. Actually, I was going to become a teacher 2 times. In between, I worked for Intercontinental Hotels, did this 3-year apprenticeship of doing basically everything that is that people do in a hotel, right? And that is something that, especially with Intercontinental Hotels, which is like a 5-star superior hotel, you just always get confronted with so many rich and famous people, and always think, that's the solution, right? Like I gotta have financial freedom to have real freedom, right? And so when you hate your job, which a lot of people might be able to relate to when listening to this podcast, the thing is that you just don't have any how do I say this? English is not my native my mother language, but the problem was that you barely make anything to pay your rent in that business, in that field, in that work field, and you had to try something out in order to find out that money only is not the solution, right? So a lot of people Google stuff like, how do I become rich? How do I become a millionaire? And stuff like this, right?
Yes.
Nobody wants to admit it, but that's actually what they look for in the first place. And
Absolutely.
then you find a whole lot of sketchy people online that are trying to sell you certain courses and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And while I was researching all of this and trying to find my entry somehow, somebody recommended the book The 4 Hour Work Week, which is like the Bible for digital nomads, right? So back then, when this was released, 2007, the majority of people never knew about the term geo arbitrage. Like he doesn't use the word digital nomad, he talks about geo arbitrage. And that just means that you're actually using the differences in cost of living around the world. Like if you have an online business and you make euros or dollars or something like that, but you spend it in Thailand or in the Philippines or wherever or in Latin America, it's like a relative income. Like you can make 5 grand and live in Manhattan and barely survive,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But if you take that money elsewhere, you can have a much higher standard of living.
Yeah.
And that concept just blew my mind because in the first place, I only worked at a hotel because I was always wanting to combine work and travel.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you just have this ideal idea in your head of how it will be like working in nice resorts all around the world, but you work so much that you barely get to see any of that, right? So that's actually turning out to be more depressing than
Yeah.
than not having started this at all, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it was just that I had to try things out without any digital background, and after looking deeper into this topic of geo arbitrage and then getting to digital nomads, that's when I found some blogs a couple of years ago that were talking about online course platforms like Udemy and
Yeah.
so on. And it was just incredible that you could find so many courses on things that you could do from your laptop for $10, right? Because they constantly have these promotions, which I didn't know back then. I thought this was a one-time deal, and I bought like 30 online courses, like spent all my savings on this, buying courses on app development and all kinds of e-commerce stuff and just different things.
Yeah.
And like 90% of the courses I never even started, never watched them, because one of the first ones was on Amazon FBA. A lot of people might know this.
Yes.
So for those who don't, FBA stands for Fulfillment by Amazon, and it's basically a way of running an e-commerce business remotely because you can have your supplier ship your goods to the warehouse to some warehouse of Amazon around the world, and when somebody orders something, they're gonna pick it, pack it, and ship it no matter where you are. You only need internet to do this, and that's what I started with, and I did this for 3 years or almost 3 years, and this went very very well. But after
What is very, very well? Can you like share some
well, you know, as
amounts?
a teacher, as a teacher in Germany, you would make like 3,500 euros. And after 4 months of doing Amazon FBA, I was doing 3,500 euros.
Wow. Yeah.
And of course, this scaled over the course of almost 3 years.
Yeah.
So still, I decide, like, when you follow digital nomads, everybody's telling you, yeah, you got to start a blog, you know, and you can sell some ebooks and stuff. It's like passive income
Yeah.
until you die, right? Because
But
once,
it always sounds easier. Like, you know, like
absolutely. So before I was doing the FBA stuff, I actually did start a blog, but I never really monetized it. It was
No.
just more like a passion project,
Okay.
passion project on the side. But I documented the entire FBA journey
Yeah.
from the beginning on that blog, and nobody was familiar with the concept in Germany up to that point. So I started this huge movement in Germany where people were just mind blown what is actually possible, like how you can in a matter of months build this up and start traveling, right?
Yeah.
So I was invited to so many conferences and podcasts and giving keynote speeches and all kinds of things related to Amazon FBA, and became an expert in that field quite quickly,
Yeah.
right? With only having done this for a couple of months, but this gives you a great way of also, of course, selling info products and giving workshops over weekends and stuff like that, where people really just want to learn from you how they can actually break out. Because a lot of people don't take that initiative after watching an online course to just do it, right? But when you have offline workshops, and I really like to do
To do
those,
offline.
people actually have to come to your event,
Yeah.
have to find accommodation, and like the seriousness or the engagement of the people is much higher than when you buy an online course for $10,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, exactly those really helped me to start this on my own.
Wow, that's amazing. That's quite a journey.
Yeah.
Hey, so at this moment, what are you focusing on now?
The whole FBA thing was starting to bore me like
Yeah.
crazy, because after 3
Well,
years,
you earn money from it.
yeah, I mean, it was perfect to start with
Yeah.
for me, because otherwise, like if you would have told me 3.5 years ago that I'd be sitting on a cruise crossing the Atlantic, and actually this is my fourth time already,
Wow. Yeah.
and all the places I've been in the last 3 years, I would
You
have
would have
never
never.
believed
No.
you, never.
No.
And that's just the perfect example of, like, it's almost 500 people on the ship right now, right?
Yeah.
That are working remotely. So to see in which many different in how many different ways these people actually make a living. In the beginning, everybody is always struggling to find an idea, because everybody thinks like they gotta have this innovative new business idea,
Yes.
right? They gotta have the new Facebook or something like that, which
I
is
was that
ridiculous.
person. I was
Yeah.
that person, and it is ridiculous.
It's
Yes.
super ridiculous, because in reality, there's barely anything nowadays that you cannot do from a laptop. All right. So in reality, most people don't realize that you can do almost anything from a laptop. I mean, I know lawyers who do their client sessions via Skype and do it from a beach in Thailand if they want to, right?
Yeah.
Because people pay you or come up to you for what you know, like for how you can help them proceed with what they're doing. So the misconception is that you really got to have this new crazy business idea in order to live a self-determined life and be successful, whatever that might mean for the individual, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the problem is that everybody has much higher expectations when it comes to being self-employed. Like that is much harder than it
Yeah.
actually is,
Yeah.
right?
But it also depends like how you like set up your business, because at this moment I am a digital marketing consultant, and I feel that I have like more hours. Like I do it like because I really
Yeah.
like to do it, but I also have to like think of smart ways how
Yeah.
to, to get the clients and be traveling, etc.
Yeah, but there's two sides to this. First of all, when you start something, of course, you got to put in more hours, because you just got to build up something in
Yeah.
the beginning, right?
Yeah.
The other side is that most people, especially here on this ship, and I don't want to sound cheesy, but they do something that they really enjoy doing, right? So in order to be traveling, or in order to have a business in a certain field that they in the beginning thought was not possible, it's like the border, or like the differentiation between work and play, or work and life, is a different one. Like, work life balance is a term that is very well known, but there's some how do you say, like, actually there's something wrong with the term work life balance in the first place, because it indicates that work is not a part of your life, right?
Yeah.
And that work is the evil, the bad thing, and life is the good thing. And you only need to hold a balance between things that, like, where there's a disbalance,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
So that actually makes a lot of people already feel like they have to dislike their job, because they got to find a way to have a better work-life balance, right? And I think this is already a problem on a psychological level. And here, or in general, in the scene of digital nomads, or in general, maybe like online or remote workers, however you want to call it, there's many terms to this. They choose things that they like doing, and then it doesn't matter how many hours you put in. I personally, I couldn't even tell you how many hours I work per week, because sometimes it's maybe only 10,
Yeah.
but Others, it's like 10 hours a day, but it just really doesn't feel like work because you're doing something that you're interested in. Like
Yeah.
often it's not even work, but when you run a blog or like you have to find so many uh, new things that you might be able to use for your business. Like you do a lot of research, you read a lot, you listen to podcasts. Should I write this down as work? I don't know, because
No.
it's stuff
Yeah.
that is interesting you.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like work,
Yes.
actually. So, because you were talking about the 4-hour work week.
Yeah.
Did you actually manage to have that 4-hour work week?
Well, I never freelanced, and I never really had clients that I had to spend time on. So what I do now is definitely running on less than 4 hours a week.
Yeah.
And I don't have to tell anybody that I'm on this cruise with no internet or anything. So basically, if you want to say it's a 4-hour work week, you can do that. But I always work more than 4 hours because, like I said, I like what I do. But I actually didn't even finish my first point, which was there's no need to have this crazy new business idea,
No.
right?
Yes.
Because what I do now, or what I did in the past 3 years, and I see people doing this all the time, is just building something around, for instance, platforms that a lot of people use, right? Like this same Amazon FBA stuff actually is just a form of e-commerce, right?
Yeah.
But it's a new approach to it. And within this little part of e-commerce, just Amazon FBA itself, it creates so many sub niches. Like there's people who do consulting, or who help people importing stuff, who are very very skilled in European tax systems. Like if you sell in multiple European countries and stuff like this, right? Or who are packaging designers that especially cater to FBA sellers and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like there's so many sub niches to every field.
Yeah.
And I think when people realize that there's so many facets to making a living online, that in any field you can actually make some money, there's no end to creativity, actually, right?
Okay.
So I personally think that there's nothing that you cannot do from a laptop if you decide to, apart from maybe being a butcher or a carpenter or a cab driver, right? But other than that, whatever you do in an office, you can do remotely.
You can do it remotely. Yes. Hey, so what is really important to be successful online? Do you have like tips that you can share?
First of all, I think in order to really change your life, this mostly happens out of two reasons, or you gotta have two things: either frustration or inspiration, or a combination of the two, ideally, which was the case with me. But other than that, I think persistence is the most important, right? Like shit just takes time.
Shit just takes time.
Shit just takes time, and there's like in a world where everything is going so quickly and everything is changing on a daily basis, people expect success also to just appear in a much shorter time, just because everything else is going quicker, right? And that is not realistic, and that's why a lot of people start their self-employment and quit quite quickly, just because they think they're not successful, or they're not getting where they want to be, right? Just because it takes a little bit more time. And there's one quote that I really like by Winston Churchill. He says, success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. Yeah, I like that one.
I like that one too. Hey, so now you're totally doing other business that I actually never heard about. And that's what I always said in the beginning: creative ways to make money, creative ways to already use a community or a platform or whatever to start earning money. But can you just tell me a little bit about what you do now?
Yeah. So like I said before, I've been traveling for 3.5 years now, and most of that time I spent living in Airbnbs. I suppose, should I explain Airbnb too itself?
No.
Okay.
I think most of the people know.
Yeah,
what
the
that
host
is.
sharing platform.
Yeah.
So I'm too old for hostels. I can't do
Yeah,
this no more. So I
yeah,
mostly stay in apartments through Airbnb. And the longer you travel as a business owner, you just realize you're not a backpacker anymore, right? Like you got to have your routines in order to get something done,
yeah.
right? And I think productivity is something that you definitely sacrifice when traveling too much. So by now, I more live a concept of living like a multi-locality. I have my few favorite spots in the world that I regularly come back to, where I know people, where I know where to work and everything. So that saves me time. So I thought, feeling that, yeah, I was feeling I really want to have a home base again. But the thing is, when you have a home base and you're actually a traveler at heart, you don't really want to tie yourself to one location, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what was possible was actually to rent apartments long term in the places that I like, that I regularly go back to, and make them feel like home too. So I started renting multiple places around the world, furnish them, make them really nice, make them feel like home, and actually sublet them through Airbnb while I'm not gone. And what most people, and especially even Airbnb hosts, don't know is that by now there are so many services and tools that actually allow you to
Yes.
run this entire thing
Yeah.
remotely. Because of course, like people ask me, like, how do you manage cleaning and like to hand over keys and all of this stuff when you're not there? And yeah, it's insane what kind of
What is
ecosystem has developed around the concept of short-term rentals.
wow? Hey, and you're also talking about because you're doing this Airbnb, and you told me I think 2 days or yesterday, 2 days ago or yesterday, that you always come like in the top
Hmm.
of the search.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah.
How did you accomplish that?
Since I did Amazon FBA before, that is of course an algorithm-based platform, and you can actually to some extent control how well your product was doing on or ranking in the search results. So when I was starting doing Airbnb, that was obvious to me that a platform like that also has an algorithm behind it, right? That you can that you can tickle a little bit in order to use it to your advantage, right?
Yeah.
But the majority of Airbnb hosts, they just don't have that background, first of all, and they also never think of the options that they actually have to automate this thing and rank better. Like they just have a place, and then they take their cell phone, take some crappy pictures, put it online, and just see what happens, right?
Yeah.
And of course, that was not the approach that I was following. So there's different metrics and different tips on how to rank better. But in general, I can say that within like 2.5 weeks, I managed to rank on the first pages of the search results, and just stick out by the appearance of my listings. So right now, Airbnb, the platform in most countries internationally, is really it's like the times of the gold rush. Like people evaluate Airbnb or compare it to Amazon in 2004, and we all know how successful they turned out to be
Absolutely.
after all, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's super interesting, and I'm just excited for the times to come, just because right now you can perform so well so easily on Airbnb because just most people are not aware of what is necessary to do that and how easy it actually is to to set yourself apart from the competition right now.
Yeah. Nice. Back to because like this is a podcast for people that are like looking for ways to
Hmm.
earn money online, and hopefully also like small medium entrepreneurs are listening. What I always find with these entrepreneurs is that they actually don't know, like they know that they have to do something with marketing,
Hmm.
but they actually don't know how to do it.
Hmm.
And before you hire maybe a freelancer or something, I think you need a little bit of knowledge about what to do, how to do it.
Hmm.
You did not have any online marketing background.
No, not at all.
Was it all about the Udemy courses? Like, is that how you got your knowledge, or just by doing?
No, I actually, well, the whole Amazon FBA stuff, yeah, I got this
Yeah.
from online courses. But what 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 was the best decision for me actually was to start this blog, because of that you get so much attention when you come up with a disruptive business model that is easy to follow, right? So people are just very thankful for that. And Gary Vaynerchuk, for instance, he also wrote the book, The Thank You Economy, right? So I just documented everything that I did for like 3 years, barely did any marketing myself,
Yeah.
but people are just thankful for the advice. And I wasn't selling anything on that website the entire time. So it was just sincere will to help other people and show options, right? And people just are very, very grateful for things like this and give you tips at the same time or offer you their help because you are giving them free help all the time.
Yeah.
The one thing that I personally think also was responsible for me maybe being lucky or turning out to be successful with what I did was actually that I'm very design orientated. So the blog itself, everybody's just like, yeah, just put it out there, just see what happens, right? And I wasn't like that. Like to me, because of the whole e-commerce standard, like in e-commerce, you might have like cell phone cables that you're selling,
Yeah.
and you have high quality packaging,
Yeah.
and you can charge much more for the same damn cable than other companies who have shit packaging, right? So it is, in my opinion, quality is also about perception and presentation,
Yeah.
right? And that applies to any field, to any business, to no matter if you're doing consulting and you have a particular website that it just has to look like you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? That like you might even have paid quite some money for that website, which obviously is not necessary nowadays in times of crazy WordPress themes and all of this. So my website, from the beginning, I always put a lot of focus on having a professional appearance, and just try to follow this through with all my workshop presentations, social media, and everything. So I personally think that branding is one of the key factors when it comes to making your business a success.
Branding. I also heard you talk about like finding out who your customer is, niching.
Yeah.
A lot of companies, entrepreneurs, whatever, are really afraid to just focus on a niche. Why is it important? And how do you overcome that fear? Like, how did you overcome that fear?
Well, let's take the Airbnb concept as an example. When you don't know who your customer is, you won't furnish the place for an ideal customer, right?
Yeah.
So do you want to host business people? Do you want to host families? Do you want to host bachelor parties or something like that? I hope not. But you gotta like, in order to attract the right customer that is right for you, that is the least risky for you also, maybe especially in that field, you gotta think about this, and you gotta consider this when you furnish your place, when you take the pictures, like what kind of art you put on the wall and stuff like that, like how expensive should I don't know, furniture be. Is it gonna get messed up, like if I have the wrong guests and stuff like this? There's actually a lot of thought that you have to put into this, especially with the Airbnb business. The thing is that when you have a place set up in a nice way, and you already do it better than the majority on Airbnb, like even if it's only better photos, there's no need to have fear that you're not going to have occupancy and not rent it out, right? Because housing is always needed. Like, that's one of the basic needs in the Maslow pyramid scheme, right?
Absolutely.
So in general, when I set up a nice place, and if it's not going to be successful on Airbnb, which luckily is never the case, then I can still rent it out for the regular price without losing money. So you gotta make yourself aware of the worst case scenario, of course, and then people see mostly that the worst case scenario is not that bad. And also at the same time, when you're at a point where you're considering to become self-employed or start a business in any way, you should also, like, if you're maybe still in your day job, you should also think of the best case scenario. If you don't get self-employed. That is something that a lot of people leave out, because the best case scenario is that one day, unlikely, but maybe, you might have the job of your boss, who is sitting in the same damn office Monday through Friday doing something with much more responsibility, but he's still sitting in that same damn building, right?
Yeah.
So if that's not what you're looking out for in general, in the long term, then why are you doing what you're doing at this moment?
Yeah.
Right? So I think that is something that people also have to keep in mind. And at the same time, there's always a lot of critics that tell you to be realistic, right? But the thing about realism is it just gets you nowhere. And what is super interesting is that the idols of the world, of anybody, are always like musicians, stars,
Yes.
athletes, and so on, or a successful businessman.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says, "Oh, see that tax accountant? He's shit. I want to be him."
No.
Right? Because we actually idolize people who, at one point in their life, had the guts to say, "Screw the conventional way. Like, I'm just gonna do me. I want to pursue this career path, and I'm just gonna give it my all." Right?
Yeah.
And those are our heroes.
Yeah.
If they would have listened to everybody telling them, "Oh no, this is not going to work out. You shouldn't do this and that," then we wouldn't have these idols nowadays.
Absolutely. So talking about idols, that's always the last question I
damn.
end up. Who is your hero and why?
Well, my hero is actually Michael Jackson. But I think, if you ask me why, I actually never thought about it. But I think Michael Jackson is my hero because he was very unconventional, no matter the style, the dance moves, the singing. Like, everything he did was completely different than what anybody else did. People loved him for that. And obviously, I mean, he had some issues. I don't want to ignore that, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, he always seemed like such a sincere person, always being nice to everybody, right? To not lose traction, and maintain being a good spirit, and trying to bring something good into the world, and being successful doing things completely different than anybody else. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this talk. It was super interesting. I could have do this for 2 hours. Go to www.sharonvansprang.com. Get access to the tools, tips, or coaching that will help you grow your business.